Okay, imagine a world where 97% of living species don't form any lasting partnerships. Now imagine being a part of the 3% that does. That's us humans. We're one of the few mammals that form long-term cooperative partnerships. But why? What is it that makes us so different? So it's something called pair bonding. Our brains, they basically figured out that forming strong attachments, working as a team, sharing resources, and creating family units boosts our chances of survival. So our brains started releasing happy hormones like oxytocin and vasopressin to facilitate these bonds, evolving our social intelligence and cooperative skills. In a way, we've literally hardwired the quest for a soulmate into our DNA to the point where people who don't find a partner or don't find love have shorter lifespans on average, says this paper. So learning this whole dating business, dating algorithm could actually be a matter of life and death. I know I'm extrapolating a bit here, but nevertheless, I feel like it's important to understand the ways of our current world and why and how they're evolving. You see, the social media today is selling you all sorts of nonsense, from situationships, breadcrumbing, textationship, thirst trapping. How can we all be so stupid to fall trapped to these dumb games? Have you ever stopped and asked yourself, who creates all of this? Who benefits from all of this? Is it really you or the businesses making money off you? Because by the way, they are making shit tons. Indians by end of 2024 will be spending around $400 million on dating apps. Great business opportunity, capitalizing on people's loneliness and suffering for sure. But if you're a Navy subscriber, it is my duty to share the tough truths about life, survival, relationships, why they are so important, how do you find one, when and how should you start thinking about all this, because at some point you will have to. So I was talking to a friend recently who was sharing how he created a new Tinder profile a few weeks back, and the number of matches he got was abysmally low as opposed to the number of people he swiped right on. He was like, bro, I don't think I'm that ugly or repulsive. Why are these girls not swiping right? It's literally taking a hit on my self-confidence. And that's when I was like, shit. This must be the case with so many people. So many folks on these apps must be feeling this way and tying their self-worth to these dating apps without even understanding the basic economics of dating apps or how these algos actually work, because it's totally unrelated to your value, by the way. I, for one, honestly thought that it was universal truth that everybody knew that dating apps only make money if you stay on them. So it's inherently in their business model to keep you swiping and not find you the perfect match, because then you leave the app. Then how do they make money? In fact, just in February, Match.com, which owns all of these dating companies, by the way, was sued for this very issue. The allegations were that the predatory business model of dating apps like Tinder, Hinge defrauds those looking for love and fearful of missing out with an algorithm that rewards compulsive use of its platforms and makes them pay hundreds and hundreds of dollars a year for subscription, which is absolutely true. They also said that these companies basically gamify the platforms to transform the users into literal gamblers locked in a search for psychological rewards that the business makes elusive on purpose again. This also absolute truth. So you see, the purpose of most of these companies is to make profits and give returns to their investors, and the algorithms have evolved to do just that. In fact, there are also a lot of conspiracy theories about Tinder literally crippling the standard free version of the app and making it basically unusable unless you pay for a premium account or add-ons like super likes and boosts. There are also people who are coming up with all sorts of absurd strategies to get matches. Look at this. So the second issue and a new learning about these apps was very interesting to me. So a few years back, there was this guy who wanted to show how algorithms work. So what he did was he designed a game called Monster Match. Now this game was meant to show how algorithms basically reinforce bias by limiting what you can see, and they serve the company more than the users. So these dating apps use something called collaborative filtering, which basically generates recommendations based on the majority opinion, not just your personal preferences. It's actually very similar to the way Netflix or even YouTube recommends what to watch. So let's say you're user A and you swipe right on a zombie and then you swipe left on vampire on Monster Match. The new user who also swipes right on a zombie won't see the vampire in their queue only because the algo is now showing you monsters based on historical data of user A. So this is what's called collaborating filtering. Now it's useful for the app, but think about the damn vampire. What if user 2 would have liked seeing the vampire? What if user 2 and vampire could have had a future together? Now it's gone, and user 2, user 3, user 4, user 5, whose profiles are similar to user 1, will probably never see the vampire. This basically shows us how dating app users get boxed into narrow assumptions and certain profiles are routinely excluded. Now, not just this, there was another very interesting experiment which was conducted by an organization on why men specifically trouble finding matches. So what they did was they ran a simulation with 1,000 virtual profiles to see how these apps distort the real dating market. First, they imagined an ideal world where men and women use these apps equally, each viewing 100 profiles a day and liking 1 in 4. So this gave everybody a 25% chance of getting a like, resulting in 25 likes and 6 matches per day. But real apps, aren't this balanced. There are more men than women on apps like Tinder and Bumble. So what they did was they assumed a ratio of 2:1 and added this to the simulation. Now in this scenario, women received twice as many likes and men got fewer likes and became more desperate, liking more and more profiles to increase their chances. Now according to Bateman's principle of evolutionary psychology, men also tend to be less picky when compared to women in picking a short-term partner. So due to this and also to just match more, men like profiles nearly 3 times as often as women, according to a New York Times article. So when they put all of this data in the simulation, women received 92 likes on average while men got just 7. Now one thing that we haven't considered till now is attractiveness. In reality, some profiles are more attractive than others and a small number of users get the majority of these likes. Data from an engineer at Hinge showed that 50% of men's likes go to just 25% of women, while 50% of women's likes go to only 15% of men. Now, when they updated this data in the simulation, giving users an attractiveness score from 0 to 100, the results were striking. Only top 10% of male got all the likes and all the swipes, so the power law is insanely strong on dating apps. Now imagine this. Coupled with collaborative filtering, you'll realize that it is in no way reflective of the offline dating market and in no way reflective of your value, self-esteem or self-worth. It's literally just a game for these businesses to make money and keep you swiping, and it shouldn't be thought of as anything more than that. If it lands you your first date, great, but don't go to these apps with some crazy expectations. In my opinion, I feel like they've been more of a bane than a boon to the society, and I'm not refuting people finding their partners there. Some have, but those are the outliers, not the norm. I'm just trying to evaluate the overall effectiveness of their existence. Honestly, if you look at dating apps in India, I feel like they're taking some other form altogether. Every single day on Reddit or Twitter, you see a post about how people are using these dating apps to extort money. There's a whole dating app mafia and people have literally lost lakhs to these scams. So an individual today needs to be all the more careful when getting on a Tinder or a Hinge. Now, while this is obviously very scary to see, but what's more worrying to me is that these apps are inherently changing the very fabric of relationships. Firstly, what they do is they prolong the whole pre-commitment stage. It's literally like you have to go through tens of levels to just make it to a relationship. I'm not even talking about marriage here. A few months back, we done a video on why it's tough for Gen Zs to adapt to the usual workplace norms as opposed to millennials, where he spoke about this concept in sociology called enculturation. What that basically means is that humans learn how to behave in an environment with the help of others who've been around longer. Now, in the case of Gen Zs, the whole dating enculturation happened over digital platforms, Tinder, Hinge, social media because of the pandemic. So that kind of became the norm for them. But I feel like it's these same dating apps that have made relationships super transactional today. People now are increasingly treating intimacy and emotional connection as products that can be consumed rather than bonds to be nurtured. What these dating apps do is they present people as these products to be browsed, compared, and then added to cart. And I feel like this commodification of human beings is encouraging a very shallow, consumerist approach to relationships. What's basically happening is people are treating potential partners as something disposable, always looking for an upgrade. And the sheer number of potential matches also creates a paradox of choice. See, with so many options, we become paralyzed, always wondering if there's somebody better just a few swipes away. And this is what's preventing people from fully investing in any one connection. People are literally forgetting that the best established predictors of how a romantic relationship will develop can only be known after the relationship begins, which most of the people are not even reaching at. These apps honestly are just making people waste their time, that's all. Now, I don't mean to say this to scare you, but I want you all to know that post you turn 30, a lot of you might start running out of options. So if in your 20s you keep playing these dumb games on dating apps, you could lose out on finding somebody. And it's not because you lack something, it's because in India, as a culture, most families put insane pressure on kids to get married before they turn 30, and most people even give into it. So the pool of people who you could form long-lasting relationships with you had when you're 26 or 27 keeps reducing as you get older. Post 24, 25, long-term relationships are something that all of you need to start thinking about. And if you dig deeper, you'll understand that as people age, as people get older, people start becoming more rigid. See, if you look at our brains, they reach a significant level of maturation in the mid-20s, but as individuals progress into 30s, adult synaptic plasticity, or the ability of connections to strengthen or weaken in response to activity, changes. Now, what this shift can do is, it can result in the brain becoming more specialized and efficient in certain areas, but potentially less flexible in adapting to new experiences and changes. Basically, the cognitive flexibility reduces, and it could take you a little more extra effort to adjust. I'm not saying that you will not find a partner when you're older. I'm just saying that it's much easier to find one when you're younger. And a lot of people now might say that, hey, 20s are for exploring and figuring out what we want to focus on ourselves. Great, figure out your career, learn some skills, but don't not invest in long-term relationships once you're done so. And when I say invest, I don't mean go make dating app profiles. I mean actually putting in the effort to try and form a long-lasting relationship. This is physically going and meeting people, communicating rather than just texting, actually putting in time, getting to know the other person. I interrupt this segment to share some news with all of you. So around 1.5 years ago, we started a video editing cohort because we had this thesis that we're moving towards a world where it's becoming easier and easier to build products, but harder to get users. So distribution is going to become the mode. And somewhere our thesis was right, because if you look at companies, founders, everybody is creating content right now. And honestly, making compelling videos, understanding the algorithm is now a legitimate long-term career. We at AV also are now in the middle of our 7th cohort, and we have trained over 1,800 plus video editors who are now working with companies like Blinkit, Zerodha, Zoho, and folks like Ali Abdal, Nikhil Kamath, Tanmay Bhatt. 80% of students who applied for placements have got jobs with average salaries of 4.5 lakh per annum. And I don't know if I can legally say this, okay? But honestly, anybody and everybody who joins the cohort is willing to finish the cohort, get their portfolios ready, we have a job for you. And we have worked very, very hard to create this recruiter network of 500 companies who are all hiring multiple video editors from us, by the way. So, while we have so many people complaining about not getting jobs on the internet, I keep telling them, come to our cohorts, we can help. But then they say, oh, it's video editing. But honestly, that's where the demand is right now. And you need to be okay with a job that's not software engineering. And I'm not exaggerating, we have more recruiters than students sitting for placements as of now, and getting packages higher than engineering colleges. You know what? Don't take my word for it. Come experience it firsthand. We're doing a free masterclass where you can learn how to edit videos like AVTV, understand content better, get to know our instructors, know what the community is like, and see some of the work that our cohort students have done before. And more than anything, knowing content, knowing editing will help all of you build leverage for yourself. So come watch it even if you don't want to join the cohort, because you might just end up learning something new. I'm putting the masterclass link in description. See you there. A lot of people have this absurd idea that relationships or love is something that you're just supposed to fall into or stumble upon because that's how the movies show it. But reality is actually very, very different. Long-term relationships are not just this thing that happens to you. It's actually a skill, just like everything else in life. And it's not just about falling in love, right? It's about staying in love. And let me tell you something. Looking at this whole staying in relationship as a skill does not take away from the sanctity of relationships, but you need to understand that relationships are not just about the initial chase and the butterflies you feel in your tummy. It's a decision to stay with that person after these butterflies are gone. I feel like it's a luxury to have somebody take care of you, be invested in your growth as much as you are in yours. Now, there's two of you rather than just one. You are never alone in anything you do. any decision you make, you have another person who can help you, guide you, and there are literally so many proven benefits of a good relationship. For example, mental health. Studies show how people in loving relationships report lower stress and higher happiness. Physical health. Research indicates that married individuals often live longer, healthier lives. Economic stability. Two incomes and shared resources can provide a financial buffer. And also social networks. Couples often have broader social connections, which again can be crucial for everything from finding jobs to emotional support. But look at us. Here we are, breadcrumbing it seems. And I mean, what does that even mean and why are we resorting to all this? See, I understand that it's tough because two people make a relationship. So you'll be like, hey, I could be doing my part, but what about the other person? And that is the main reason why I say that this new culture that promotes poor communication skills is harming everybody. It's toxic. Relationships help you become better communicators, not just with friends, but at work as well. But here people are promoting not talking, ghosting. It's so stupid, right? People on Twitter, Reddit promoting all of this are probably young and haven't faced any adversities in life. God forbid any of you get any chronic illness, it'll be absolutely horrible going through it all alone. And loneliness in itself has been proven to be extremely bad and dangerous for your health. Having meaningful relationships is a basic human need people avoid for far too long, only to realize that now they're too scared to form any sort of connection because of fear of rejection. It's an actual phenomenon which was explained by a researcher where he says that when we feel isolated, our brain becomes more sensitive to social stimuli. It's like how you become more sensitive to bitter tastes when starving because those tastes are associated with poisons. So what loneliness does is it heightens your alertness to social danger, making you wary of connecting with people. So because you felt lonely, now you're scared of forming a connection. In turn, you don't even try, which I feel like just makes the issue all the more worse. And a lot of people just numb it or deny this feeling of loneliness because it's just easier to sit and scroll on YouTube or Instagram, right? Than go out and actually form real connections. It's easy to be fighting in comments on social media, getting dopamine hits from that. But the easy way out is not always the best way out. And I worry because all the problems that you see in the West eventually show up in India because we take a lot of inspiration from the West. And they are right now going through a loneliness epidemic, extremely high divorce rates, no relationships. Everybody is just about me, myself, and I, and then suffers once they get older. And I really genuinely don't want the youth, our Indian Gen Z, to go through this in their lives. So the question becomes, what do we do? Is there a solution? How do we form meaningful relationships? The remedy, as I've said multiple times, it's back to basics, back to offline real-world connections. And I was recently seeing how a lot of cities are coming up with new innovative ways to make people meet. Look at all these mixers, which don't just happen in tier 1 cities anymore, but tier 2 cities as well. Of course, you have to make sure that all of these mixers are safe, especially for women, but it's a great way to meet people because you know that the people who are showing up for these mixers also have the same intent as you. They're also looking to find somebody and build meaningful relationships. And not just this, there are so many other ways. There are so many offline communities, there are book clubs, sports, so many options out there, but you need to put in the effort. And honestly, if you're shy and worried that what should you do once you're a part of these communities and once you show up at these events, just have 2 to 3 faces ready and questions ready and approach people with a smile. And I feel like the more often you do this, the better communicator you also become, which is again a very, very useful skill in life. So all you gotta do is take that first step, join some offline community and go meet people face to face. Every batch of our video editing cohorts also, no matter what, we make sure that even if 10 or 15 students want to show up, we always do offline meetups because in-person interactions are so important. People make friends, people find business partners, and I don't know, hopefully sometime in the future, maybe somebody might find a life partner as well. But why I'm so hell-bent on offline is because all the magic in relationships happens in person. And the least you can do for yourself is at least try. I believe you can only get lucky if you make the attempt to get lucky. So go try in the right direction, that's offline, not online. And once you do find somebody, I urge you to seek authentic connection, real communication. Don't hide behind your screens, spend time face to face and build something meaningful and long lasting. Honestly, my partner was one of the best decisions of my life and I genuinely wholeheartedly hope that you all are able to find somebody too. Anyway, that's all for today's video. I hope you guys learned something new and also unlearned some of the stuff that social media has been telling you. My name is Achina Maya. Thank you for watching and please don't forget to hit the subscribe button. See you in the next video.